right, welcome. Hello. If you are new, welcome to the monthly pain-free living call. It is a pleasure to have you. If you are returning and you've been here before, it is a double pleasure to have you come back. And thank you for letting me know that you get value here. It is my intention to really assist all of you in some way, because I know that if you're on a call like this, most likely either you or someone you love is suffering from some type of chronic pain, depression, anxiety. Maybe you have insomnia or migraine headaches or some kind of chronic fatigue or condition that you've had that nothing's showing up on a medical test and they don't know what to tell you to do. Or maybe something showed up on a test and you've tried everything they told you to do and you didn't get results. And people come to me for all types of reasons, wide range. So don't get bogged down when you hear me say the word pain and think, oh, she's just helps people with back pain. No, 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 that's not the case. Pain may show up in your body, but it may show up in your relationships. It may show up as a painful pattern with money, with your work, with a sense of purpose in your life, with a feeling of not fitting in. It may show up as an addiction. It may show up as, the midnight trip to the refrigerator night after night. It may show up in many different forms. Pain is pain, and we each have our own variety of it. And my work is all about helping you to realize that living in pain is not normal. It is not common and normal. Well, it might be common, but it's not normal and it's not required to have more pain as you age. It is also not normal that you should just learn to live with pain. You should just learn to cope with pain. You should think of it as everybody has pain. That's not the case. Now, unfortunately, we do live in a world where we've been taught to believe a lot of things that are not true. And this is at the root of a lot of disease. These facts that aren't really facts, but nobody's questioning, because it's become so common that when you go to the grocery store to buy food, you find an entire aisle with painkillers, with things for allergies and headaches, for all different types of pain. It's right at the counter as you check out. Even when you go to the natural grocery store, you see these things everywhere. And why? Because we've been led to believe that pain is normal, that it is common, that you should just expect it. And I'm here to challenge that, to shake you up. And obviously, if you're here, a part of you, it might be a little part, it might be a huge part, is saying, I don't want that. I don't want that to be my normal. I don't believe it has to be my normal, but I don't know what to do about it. Anybody relate to that? Like, you don't want it to be your normal, right? And some part of you knows there has to be another way. So how does the pain get camouflaged? And this, again, is very common in our world today, where the camouflage, the costume, what's the word? I don't know, I lost the word. The camouflage that the pain takes is the symptom. And the symptom is never the root cause of the problem. So I want you to write down on that piece of paper you have with you. And if you haven't grabbed one, grab some paper and a pen or pencil. And I want you to write down my symptom or my symptoms are, and I want you to list the symptoms. And I'd like you to first write it down and then type them in the chat. What are your top 3 common symptoms that brings you to this call? Now remember, the symptoms are not the real problem, but I want you to be aware. as we talk about this tonight and we go deeper into exploring what is at the root. Because most likely, the number one thing that you are doing that practically guarantees that your pain and symptoms will never leave, and you don't know you're doing this, and it's adding to the problem, so listen closely, is you're focused on the symptom. Over and over, day and night, and you keep getting tests and x-rays and MRIs and talking to people and Googling and asking Dr. Google, what's wrong with me? And you keep reading research about your symptom. And what you're doing is you're feeding energy into the problem that you're trying to get rid of. My friends, please listen. If you hear nothing else that I say, that's like having a fireplace in your living room and you want to go to bed and you want to put the fire out before you go to bed. So you add 3 or 4 more logs to the fire and the flames start roaring and roaring and blazing. Now, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. You with me? Everything is about energy, but that's not what you're hearing out there. Energy. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, where you're focusing your attention, you're feeding energy either into the solution or into the problem. Let me say that again. It's really a key. If you're new here, really listen closely. And if you've been around the block with me a few times, listen even more closely, because you may be tuning it out because you've heard it before and you think, well, I already know that, Deborah. I already heard that, Deborah. But what happens is we sort of we get hazy and we don't hear it deeply when you hear it over and over. So I want to ask you to really pay close attention to this. What you look at, what you talk about, what you tell yourself, what you read about, what you listen to, what you focus on feeds energy into the very thing that you either want or don't want. And it works the same way. Whether you want it or you don't want it, if you're focused on it, talking about it, listening to it, Googling it, you're feeding it energy. And what I find most people are doing, and this is most people, they're feeding energy into what they don't want. Anybody aware that you may have done this once or twice? Every 10 minutes? So you see, I did it for years and it made me sicker and sicker and sicker and more feeling like a victim and more feeling like helpless and hopeless and scared and out of control and like I had no power and like it was happening to me, right? I didn't see my part in it. And don't get me wrong, there's no blame in this. We're not taught how to use our mind properly. We should all be taught from kindergarten how to use our brain, our mind, our thoughts, our words properly. And we're not taught this. If we were taught how to do this properly, we would know how much power we have. We would know how much power is in the thought process. We would know how much power is in the verbalizing, which makes thought turn into sound. And not to get religious, because this isn't necessarily religious, it's physics, but it also, if you think about the word, the sacredness of the word, see, the word became physical form. We've been taught this for centuries. The word is a vibration. Every word you speak is a vibration. And thoughts are a vibration, but they're more subtle. But you're thinking all day long. And we know from science, you're thinking on average 90,000 thoughts a day. Oh my God, that's a lot of thinking. And then you're speaking those thoughts to yourself and other people. And that it becomes more solid, more powerful when you speak your thoughts. Because the sound waves literally are being sent out like a message to the universe saying, this is what I want. This is what I'm focused on. And what you send out, see, the universe always says yes to you. This is physics, my friends, and we're not taught this. It's not magic. It seems like it because it really is quite powerful, but we aren't taught to use our words, our voice, our sound properly. And we're not taught to think properly. So how many of you, with a show of hands, or if you look down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see the word reactions. And if you click on that, you can click on the heart or something else. But I like the hearts. So how many of you know that you have at least a dozen times since you developed these symptoms, you've thought about it, you've spoken about it, you've Googled it? How many of you know that at least a dozen times, maybe 1,000 times, but at least a dozen times recently, right? Look at the hearts going up. Look at the hands. Yeah. Keep sending them. I want you to own it, because when you own it, you will imprint it like indelible ink in your brain. You'll get when you participate on a call like this, you're going to get it deeper when you participate. When I ask you to type or send me a hand or send me a heart, you're going to get it much deeper than if you just kind of sit back. Oh yeah, I know that. I know that. I know that. Don't let know-it-allism shut the door. Stay open with a beginner's mind tonight. Even if you've heard this 1,000 times, people tell me all the time, they've been working on themselves for 20 years. And they come to me and they go, Deborah, something finally clicked. And you know what's happening? It's not necessarily always the information I share with you, even though that is very important. You know what's more important? You are receiving my sound. The vibrational frequencies that come through my voice are a bandwidth of frequencies that may be beyond what you access on your own with your own thoughts. And if you really listen and take in what I'm saying on an intellectual level and on a vibrational level where you might feel something that you don't even understand, just by being here, just by allowing your being to take in the vibrational sound that comes through my voice, you could shift into a deeper understanding, and you could finally get what you've been looking to get, maybe for a decade or 2 or 3. So stay open. Try to stay out of the left brain that likes to say, oh, I know that. I know that already. This isn't necessarily about the left brain linear read a book kind of information that you're going to get here. And many people say to me all the time, the minute they signed up for the call, or the minute they booked an appointment with me for a one-on-one, or the minute they signed up for my group, they say, wow, Deborah, it's the wildest thing. I started to feel healing results. And I hadn't even worked with you yet. You know why? Because your yes energy, your intention was strong enough to sign up, to commit. And that yes energy rippled out into the universe, and you lined up with yes. You lined up with clarity. You lined up with my vibrational frequency. And I know and hold the space for each and every one of you, whether you get it or not, that everything is possible. Everything. I don't care how long you've had it. I don't care what you've been told. I care. It's not that I don't care, but I don't buy into the belief system that you cannot ever heal, or you've had it too long, or it runs in your family, it's your genetics, you're too far gone. Let me tell you, what I have seen and witnessed with my own eyes and ears over the last 30 years is it's mind-blowing to people. A lot of people would never believe what I've witnessed because they say it's impossible. I have come to discover nothing's impossible. I'm telling you, my friends, I have worked with people. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to make any medical claims or give any medical advice. I don't do medical. I do frequencies. I have been given the gift to access these higher dimensional healing frequencies that are live streaming into our cosmos. And that may sound a little far out to some of you. And you know what? That's okay. You don't even need to understand it for it to work. But it's really no different than if you were to go to some high-tech hospital and they had some fancy laser equipment with frequencies. That's what it's all about right now. We've entered the age of energy medicine because everybody who knows is in the know knows that frequencies really are the key to our future. And we're being affected by frequencies all the time. The problem is we're being affected by the wrong vibrational frequencies. Every person you know, every environment you're in, every electronic device, everything, including you, emits a vibrational frequency. And if you've ever been around a person or an environment where you go, oh my God, get me out of here, because it feels so bad, or you feel so drained, or you feel like you just want to jump out of your skin and you feel your nervous system reacting in a negative way, it's because you're being affected by the vibrational frequencies. Now, the opposite is also true. If you've ever been around someone, it could be a complete stranger, or you've been to a place, or you've heard some kind of music, or listened to even a podcast or an interview or a call where all of a sudden you go, oh, like I get that every time I even just drive by the ocean. And you know why? Because it's emitting a vibrational frequency that has a healing effect, a calming effect, a coherent. It brings coherent waves into our energy field, and our whole body and nervous system relaxes. And that is how we go back into balance. Everything that you're exposed to, person, place, or thing, is either disrupting and causing disturbances to your energy field, which then shows up in your body, mind, or spirit, or it's creating harmony, coherency, balance, that yummy feeling that we all want. And most people look for that outside of themselves in a pill, some food, sex, different, people try all kinds of things to feel different because they don't like how they feel. But I am here, and my entire purpose and mission for all these years, since this was revealed to me in meditations many years ago, my sole purpose is to share with you and as many people as possible on the planet that we don't need outer technology. We need to activate our inner technology. We have everything we need to heal, to bring the harmony back. We don't need harmony. We don't lack harmony. What has happened is we've layered over our true nature with these disturbed frequencies. So the work to do is to clear away the clouds. It's not that you're lacking anything. It's not that you're defective or diminished or not whole and perfect and complete. You are already, but there's a disconnect somewhere, and it usually comes from something we learned or some kind of experience that we had that was traumatic or shocking or very, upsetting. Or maybe you had a series of losses and stresses and you never fully recovered from the first one, and then boom, you got hit with the next one. This is where disease comes from, and pain and patterns. Much of it happens way back early in childhood. We weren't aware at 3, 4 years old. We weren't aware of what was going to help us or harm us, what was right or wrong or good, or we weren't aware of this. The brain isn't even developed enough to figure that out at a young age. You don't start discerning things till 8 or 9 years old. And by then, the ingredients have been put into the cake, and the cake's been baking and forming. And it could take decades for you to recognize, how come other people aren't suffering with this? How come other people heal and I don't? How come other people don't have this? See, if something is true, it's true for everyone. And if you've ever had, think about this one. if you have something that comes and goes, and you have not had it every day of your entire life, that means it comes and goes. It's here and it's not here. It means it's gone and then it comes back, and it comes back for a reason. And you may be unconscious as to the reason and how you're participating in that reason that it comes back. And that's what I have found over the years of working with literally, I don't know, it's hard to figure out, but I know I can tell by all the appointments I've had and all the hundreds of thousands of people I've spoken to. So I've worked with at least 100,000 people personally at this point, and I've spoken to hundreds of thousands of people who have given feedback. So when I see the numbers of people who go, even temporarily, they shifted into a state of peace and calm and harmony and pain-free, guess what that tells me? We're on to something. And if it happens for one person, it can happen to you. You're not defective or different or cursed, or it's not your karma. It is something hidden from your view. You're not blocked. You have a blind spot. Write that down. I am not blocked. I have a blind spot, and I may need some help finding what that blind spot is, but I am not blocked. God does not create people with blocks. But you do develop blind spots over time based on your belief system. And your beliefs were given to you at a very young age. And just like me, you bought them, you bought into them. And if you don't have help looking at those beliefs and throwing out the ones that are not true and don't serve you, you can get seemingly stuck there, even though you're not really stuck, you just feel stuck. Now, the second ingredient that will make you feel stuck and blocked, even though you're not, and this is a very important key to pain-free living. And again, remember, pain means any area of your life, any pattern, symptom, problem, anything, any area of your life. The second area has to do with your emotions. Remember those? I forgot about those for a couple of decades because they were too painful and I didn't want to feel them anymore. So I numbed them out for a long time because I didn't have the skills and the tools and the emotional maturity I didn't know what to do with them. And I grew up in a family that only allowed certain emotions to be expressed. It doesn't work that way. Some of you discovered, you can't have certain emotions and not affect the other emotions. And listen and then write this down. True health is about being able to feel the full range of emotions. True health is about emotional flexibility, emotional resilience. It's not about being happy all the time. That is a bunch of bunk. And it isn't real. Stuff happens to all of us that we don't like, doesn't feel good, it's uncomfortable, it stretches us, it pushes us out of our comfort zone. It's not what we wanted. It's not going our way. It's not what we expected. People let us down. We feel betrayed, and on and on and on. This is real life. And when those experiences happen, you're going to have certain emotions. At the far end of that spectrum, maybe you were or are around abuse, violence, neglect, isolation, high level of criticism. This is not pleasant. It's challenging. And it brings up emotions. Maybe you've had a lot of loss. So I didn't know that I was doing this for years, but I never felt the grief that comes when you lose someone or something that you love, or a dream doesn't work out. So I kept building up a lot of sadness and grief. And it got labeled as depression. But really, I was stuck in a stage of grief, in the anger stage. And I didn't know what to do with that. And anger wasn't allowed in my family. And anger is a very powerful emotion. And when it doesn't get expressed, it turns inward and it becomes a heavy feeling that can easily get labeled depression. Now, I'm also more introverted than extroverted, and I process life internally, whereas a lot of other people will go talk it out and talk to their friends or go to their coach or their parents or whatever. I would go alone and get quiet and try to figure it out alone. Anybody else ever do that? I suspect quite a few of you might be more introverted. And again, it's not better than or less than to be introverted or extroverted, but what it does is it causes these emotions to go inward. And if you haven't learned how to release them, they come out sideways as a symptom if you hold on to them long enough. They can turn into, and they do turn into, pains and symptoms. So for example, I developed ulcers when I was young. And into my college years, I had ulcers all the time and they couldn't figure out why. And think about it. If you have an emotion of anger a lot, irritation, do you think that's more acidic or more alkaline? It's more acidic. And if you're feeling acidic emotions long enough, you're going to develop an acidic condition in your body. So my gut went out of whack. I had ulcers. A lot of other things got disrupted, like my sleep, all the digestion. And if things irritate you or people irritate you, these things literally can show up as irritation in the body of all kinds, even allergies. And so you have to understand, and this is again a misunderstanding in the world, in my opinion, in the world of medicine, and that is that the body doesn't just have these things happen for no reason. The body is the last place anything shows up. It all starts in the subtle energy level. What do I mean by that? Thoughts and emotions. And if you have repetitive thoughts and emotions that get stored up inside that are not properly being released, they show up in the body as physical symptoms of some kind. And if you have this repetition of thought and emotion long enough, this is how the chronic conditions appear. Chronic pain, chronic fatigue, chronic anything. I had a chronic, they kept telling me it was a thyroid issue. But if it's a thyroid issue and you take thyroid meds, then something should change, and nothing changed. And you know why? Because I wasn't dealing with the underlying root of the issue. And that has to do with the area of communication, which is about expression. And I kept everything to myself. Not going to tell you. I can still hear to this day my mother saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. No one wants to hear about your problems. Don't air your dirty laundry in public. Keep it to yourself. Anybody? Miriam remembers. I heard this all the time. So I learned over time, just shut up. Just hold it in. I got very good at pretending everything was fine, and it wasn't fine. But even I began believing my own lies. And then the pains would show up, or that panicky feeling, or that what now gets labeled every day as anxiety. I didn't know, they weren't labeling it anxiety then, but it's a feeling like I wanted to just jump out of my skin. I was a nervous wreck, and come the Valiums and the sleeping pills. This is like candy now. It's given out like candy. It's all coming from unexpressed emotions and thought habits. Not just one time. It's not like you have it one time. It's a habit of thought and a habit of emotional suppression. And that affected my area of expression, which was the thyroid. So I had a lot of symptoms of things. None of them got any better no matter what I did. And believe me, I spent a lot of time and money and energy and lots of tests and lots of specialists and lots of this and lots of that. And then I would say, oh, F it. And I would just not do anything for a while. And then, I just kept going round and round. And I'm sure that's the story because I hear it from so many people I work with. For a lot of you, I know it's the same story. Then I went the natural route and I was taking buckets of supplements, and I wasn't sure they were working either, but I was afraid to not take them. And it just becomes so disturbing and so exhausting and so disheartening. I think that's the toughest part, isn't it? That you just feel like I felt very helpless and very alone, and almost like there was something wrong with me. I had some shame attached to all of it. And especially because I wasn't talking about it, I didn't realize how many other people suffered from similar. I just kept it to myself. And I want to guarantee you that if you keep it to yourself, you will feel ashamed. And you carry that shame around alone, you're going to feel worse about everything. So the key is you come to someone like me. It doesn't have to be me, but you find someone you trust and you talk to them and you work with them, or you get into the group and you start to be around the people who understand, who will not judge you, and who will validate. And you'll realize, I mean, half of the time the shame drops the minute you realize you're not alone, that other people go through similar and have come out the other side, and that you recognize you're not terminally unique, you're not cursed, and that there's hope. And so if nothing else, I hope you leave here today with hope, that there really is hope. Because I don't suffer, and I haven't for a long time. Not to say everything goes my way, believe me, it doesn't. I've just been through a few months of like a whirlwind of things that just were nuts. And I had to use all my tools to stay centered. There are many things that happen in life that are outside of our control, particularly other people and their reactions. And so we have to learn how to deal with that and find that calm center and understand the importance of self-care and have a lot of tools in our toolbox, because otherwise you get knocked off balance too easily, especially with what's happening in the world right now. Highly disruptive time that we're living in. And if you watch too much of the news and the media and the social media, you can easily fall into fear. And fear is the lowest vibration there is. It is the lowest vibrational frequency there is. And it will feed your pain and your symptoms immediately. And that's why, if you know you're in a lot of fear, just own it and reach out, please, and let me or someone help you. Otherwise, this idea that you're going to somehow figure it out. People say to me every day, Deborah, I've been trying to figure this out, trying to figure this out. You have to get to a higher vibrational frequency, higher than the state of consciousness you're normally in, if you want to shift anything. And most people aren't capable of doing that at first on their own, or they would have done it 10 years ago. Each one of you, if you could have fixed yourself, you would have done that a long time ago. You need a new state of consciousness, a higher state of consciousness. You need to see it differently. You need to think about it differently. You need to feel differently. You need to take different actions. And you've probably all heard that saying, insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. Boy, I tried that for a long time. It never worked. So that's why I really want to acknowledge each and every one of you for showing up on a call like this. And hopefully you will gain at least one golden nugget, I call them today, that shifts your way of thinking, shifts the actions that you take, shifts your belief system. And if it shakes you up and makes you really question the foundation of your whole life, good, good. I hope it does. Because like I said, if your foundation was so rock solid, you wouldn't feel stuck, blocked, or lost. So something needs to change. And in my case, and in many people that I work with, everything needed to change for me. Everything. Most of my thoughts were based on rotten sand. Most of my beliefs, they were not solid ground. My emotions, I had lost touch with them, and I didn't have a tool in my toolbox to feel them and release them. And I also had this idea, which most people that I work with have, and they, this idea, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take so long to heal. And it's layer after layer after layer. Like you hear this thing about peeling the onion. No, guess what? This is what's most exciting about what was revealed to me and what's at the core of my work with using high-speed healing. And that is that when you move into the quantum realm of understanding from the energy quantum perspective, things don't take time. Things don't take a long time. There is instantaneous healing for a lot of people. And the people that don't get instantaneous healing, it's because it's not for their highest and best good, and it needs to go a little slower because it would be too much for them to handle all at once. And even though you might think you want it all to change overnight, it would probably freak you out if that happened. So, but that doesn't mean that things have to take a long time. They don't. And even around here, what I consider a long time is rapid compared to any other method that I've ever practiced or been trained in or witnessed or experienced in my own healing journey. So when you experience high-speed energy healing, there is the potential for everything to change. In fact, I've gone into a science lab several occasions with really tough cases. Someone who was paralyzed, someone with stage 4 cancers, cancerous tumors everywhere, and they were told, there's nothing we can do for you. Someone, oh gosh, who else? There were so many people. Massive insomnia, people with migraine headaches, people with horrible digestive trauma, couldn't leave the house. I've gone in and worked on these people under the microscope, and we've seen the healing results. And oftentimes in the very first session, in less than an hour, people experienced results that were considered absolutely impossible by the common way of thinking. And it defies medical, what the medical world says is true. So don't give up hope, just keep going forward and trying new things like you're doing here. Now, I want to say, though, that what I've found over the years is that the high-speed energy healing that I provide can do the trick. And then what happens? Sometimes a day later, 3 days later, a year later, people call me and say, it's back, Deborah. Why is it back? My symptoms are back. And in every single case, what I have found is that there's something you are doing that has to do with your beliefs, your habits of thought, and your emotions, typically some kind of fear that is coming up for you that you're not aware of, or you are aware of, but you're not properly releasing it. And it's bringing the condition back or the symptom back. And so again, that's the good news, because it's all changeable. And it's just a blind spot on your part. And so we can fix that. And it actually will help you discover that you're more powerful than you realize, and need to use your brain and your emotional being properly. That's what I teach in my pain-free living program. For those of you that are new here, that's my one and only signature program. I don't need to keep creating all these things. I see all these people creating new things all the time. because there's really, once you do learn the tools of how to not manage, how to find and release the disturbing habits of thought that you have and create the beliefs that are in alignment with your true nature. Once you have that tool, number one. Number two, once you have the tools for releasing, for finding where you store the emotions in your body and releasing them. And number three, you have my help in your energy field. There's nowhere else to look. Think about how exciting that is. There's nowhere else to look. There's nowhere else to look. It's either generated by your thoughts, generated by emotions, which are also vibrational frequencies. All emotions are energy in motion. So you are emitting and receiving from others emotional, vibrational frequencies. And then everything, what's fascinating about the energy field is that when the physicists first discovered this field in the 1980s, now the field is not new, by the way, it's ancient, but the physicists, the new science, discovered it in the 1980s, and they called it an information field because they discovered that the field was informing the body. The field's talking to your body, to every cell in your body, but the information shows up in the field first. Now, what's great about that is that we can catch things and get rid of them by working in the energy field years before it shows up in your body. And if it's already shown up in your body, that's okay too. We can work in the energy field and help you to more rapidly release what has manifested in the physical. They, you know, it's a hand in the glove. They work together. And this information field is the 21st century tool that we've all been praying for, because it's faster than anything else and it's safer than anything else. It doesn't require pills or endless physical therapies. It doesn't require you giving up all the foods you love. But don't get me wrong. And again, I'm not here to give nutritional advice, but all foods emit frequencies. So, you know, until you're a master, people always say to me, well, does that mean, you know, I can live on ice cream and Twinkies? I'm like, yeah, you can, but you probably need to be a master of your physicality and of your energy field first, before that won't have an effect. So, but what's interesting, and this is really, again, what I love about what I'm able to share with people, when you're exposed to the healing frequencies that I bring in long enough, and sometimes it happens right away for people, it has an effect for many people that all of a sudden, without willpower, they stop desiring the junk foods. They all of a sudden say to me, wow, Deborah, overnight, I wanted to eat salads, fresh living fruits and vegetables. I stopped eating fried chicken, fried foods. I just didn't want it anymore. It didn't even taste good. The things that I ate every day, it changed. It's funny, once years ago, I worked on someone's dog, and the next day, the person called me and said, you won't believe this. The dog's name was George. He said, Deborah, George became a vegetarian. I said, what do you mean? He said, overnight, George would not eat his dog food anymore. He wanted vegetables. You see, living fresh foods carry a very high vibration. And George obviously had an effect from the high-speed healing. And I've seen this with people too. So, but it didn't take that, they didn't have to use discipline and willpower. I've seen people come to me and say, wow, Deborah, all of a sudden, I just wanted to go exercise. And I've been trying to make myself go to the gym for 10 years to lose weight, and I just couldn't do it. And now I like woke up and wanted to go move my body. And you know why? It's back to what I said earlier. Your natural state natural. Look at animals. Have you ever seen an animal who doesn't want to take a walk? Anybody have a dog that never wants to take a walk, doesn't stretch out and like to move their body? Animals love to move. Our body is designed to move, not sit still for 10 hours a day and stare at a computer screen. Our body's designed to move. And so naturally, when you're in your natural state, you will want to exercise. You will want to move your body. But when you're in an unnatural state, a dis-ease state, you won't. Now, that could come from having an injury or an accident and then getting scared of moving. A lot of people, they freeze up after they have an accident. They're afraid of hurting themselves. They have a belief about injuring themselves. So they start to hold tight, hold on, and not move their body. And then they're afraid to move. This happens all the time. It can happen for many reasons. And so, but the natural state that will occur when you've been exposed to the high vibrational frequencies that you need, which, by the way, that's not true. Sometimes you need some people need lower vibrations and some people need higher frequencies. So it's not like a one size fits all, but you get what you need because I bring in the entire bandwidth and you'll resonate with what you need. So, but when you get the frequencies you need, Einstein even taught us that the body must change. And you'll go back into a more harmonious, natural state. All right, who's with me? Who's with me? Yay, I love it. All right, I'm going to check the chat. I want to see, there's a lot going on in there, and I want to see what that is. All right, so people are here for lots of different reasons today. Headaches, dizziness, stomach problems, ankle and leg pain, wrist pain, digestion, food sensitivities, that's a big one. Chronic pain, tension headaches, anxiety, sciatica, neck and back pain, low back pain, depression, binge eating, tinnitus. I hear that all the time. Tumors, elbow pain, knee pain, anxiety, overweight, GI. A lot of commonalities here today. Muscle pain, digestion, insomnia, anxiety, on and on. Food, a lot of people with food sensitivities, digestion here today. Now, what's interesting, Claudia mentioned food sensitivities, digestion, and emotional pain. They are linked. You see, that's your emotional center. Those of you who suffer from food sensitivities, digestion, elimination, your stomach area, that area where you're digesting life, and if you're not digesting properly, it's directly linked to emotions. That's your emotional center from the belly button down below. And all of life, my friends, is about emotional digestion. And so if we have had emotional pain and hurts, if we've had betrayals, if there's grief, any shame, any kind of fear, that's going to affect how we process life and food. And so this is where it often gets out of whack. Let's see. Lots and lots of great things here. All right, let me look at mycotoxins and mold again. Yeah. Self-isolation. All right. So Valerie is sharing with us that when she heard that emotions make the pain worse during the beginning and then doing the summit, she identified, I think she meant the summit that she attended with me. Is that what you meant? Yeah, great. She said, I identified the emotions and I sent love to them. And she has discovered that she had to do some hopping for her left tibial. I guess it was a test that you took of some kind. And
no, I broke my left tibial plateau.
say
And
again.
I broke my left tibial plateau
Oh,
about
okay.
6 months after I broke my right wrist. And
Oh, yeah.
anyway,
But you're saying it doesn't hurt like it did before since you've been
it
doing.
hurts, but it doesn't, it's not as intense, and it's not
Uh-huh. Yeah.
like right now.
Yeah. A lot of times what happens with accidents and injuries is that there is always emotion that happens when you injure yourself and after, and usually before. Accidents and injuries often come when we're not in a very solid, calm emotional place. And they can be very shocking to our system. And so most people don't thoroughly process and release the emotional experience from before and during the accident. And so it lingers. There's a cellular memory after the accident. And when you do the work in the energy field, that should be the first thing anyone ever does if there's accidents and injuries, because it will release the emotional trauma, which is often at the root of the physical trauma. And that, that can help shift people much faster and sometimes right away without lingering side effects and symptoms. Um, Parker is saying, I'm an electrician, wondering if the AC frequencies in our home or working on or near electricity can have a negative effect on our energy field. So the answer is yes. Now, I'm not here to frighten anyone. And I'm not saying, and some things have a higher effect than others, and some people are more sensitive than others. Some people are not affected by anything. And a lot of people are becoming more and more sensitive right now, whether it's foods or frequencies from the 5G in particular, or the Wi-Fi from your devices. The reason more people are becoming more sensitive right now has to do with the toxic load that we're all being bombarded with. And there's a lot going on in the food, the air, the water, and these devices, and particularly Wi-Fi. And whether you can't control, let's say you live like I do in a building where there's a lot of other people and they probably all use Wi-Fi. I don't use Wi-Fi, by the way. I'm hardwired into the internet, into the wall. I have a cell phone, but I don't talk on it. I talk on a landline phone. Now, most people like, are you kidding me? Like, do they still have those? Yes, they do. But that's because I'm very aware of wanting to minimize the load of harmful frequencies. Now, I don't say this to scare you. I say this to make you aware that we're constantly being bombarded with vibrational frequencies, everything. One of the strongest comes from driving in the car. There are these meters that you can get that will show you what things are high and what things are lower. And some of the things will surprise you. I was shocked when I saw how much is emitted on the lower left side of the car, right where your foot is the whole darn time. So again, if you're doing something like high-speed healing, if you eat clean, if you turn off your Wi-Fi, if you don't sleep with it near, in your bedroom, you shouldn't have any electronics in your bedroom at all at night, ever. You should turn your Wi-Fi off at the source every night. You should not use the Wi-Fi at all if you can help it, and you can help it. And if you're also making sure that your thinking is straight, that your emotions are being released, because emotions are one of the strongest, and thoughts are one of the strongest emitters of frequencies. So here's the thing. If you can become strong enough to not have fear about the devices and the emotion and the electronics, you're going to help yourself have a better reaction to it. If you're terrified of all this stuff, you're actually feeding the problem. It's what I said in the beginning. You're giving it power, more power than it already has. We are all adapting constantly. We have adapted from the days where there was no such thing as a smartphone. And we're adapting now to all of what's happening. Whether we like it or not, whether we think it's right or wrong, we're adapting. And the way you help yourself adapt is through your thoughts and your emotions. And by having your energy field cleared up continuously, by moving your body, by drinking pure water, by taking in pure information, which you're not going to find much, if any, on social media or the news. You're not going to see it there. And so you want to be conscious of the information you are taking in, because that's feeding and bathing your cells and your nervous system and your immune system and your mind. It's feeding you all day long. Food is not just in the form of, vegetables and hamburgers. It's what you're seeing, hearing, listening to, and telling yourself. That's the most important food of all. So if you get rid of the fears, you're raising your vibrations. So back to your question, Parker, yes, you're probably being affected, but don't give your power away too easily. Remedy what you can. Keep your environment as clean with as light a load as you can. A lot of people now think it's very cool to have these smart meters for all their AC and their heaters and their front doors now are digital, and it's Wi-Fi connected, so you can lock or unlock your house from, another state or city or whatever. See, it's not something I agree with, because all of this adds to the load of these low vibrational frequencies. And people think it's so cool. It is cool, don't get me wrong. All this stuff is very cool. But it doesn't mean that cool is healthy. So, for me, health is my number one value, and I want to do as much as possible. I'm not perfect. I do certain things that are not perfect. But most people would probably call me a health nut, because I do so many things that are healthy and that are considered outdated because they're old-fashioned. I actually prefer a car without all the electronic bells and whistles. I don't want a car that talks to me and that tells me, every little thing. I don't want a Siri, I don't want Siri telling me what to do. I don't want a car that drives itself. It takes certain frequencies to do that, and those are talking to your cells. So it's a great question. All right. I'd like to, let me see here. Question, can an extrovert become an introvert when dealing with pain symptoms for years? Well, everybody's probably got both extrovert and introvert going on. Some people just, and by the way, all it means is that you process information either more quietly and alone or more or with someone else. You either process information internally or more externally. And there's no right or wrong. One's not better than the other. But I do think that quite a few people who are more naturally extroverted may suppress their extroverted nature. They may be more social, but if they develop a chronic condition, they start to feel shame about it. Or I hear this all the time too. People get tired of having to cancel their plans and let their friends down because they don't know if they're going to have enough energy, or they're in too much pain, and they don't want to let people down. So they just stop saying yes to the social activities, and their world gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And before you know it, they are acting like an introvert. They're not really an introvert. They're just reacting in response to a condition they don't know how to change on their own. I hope that makes sense. That's a great question. And Tanya is sharing a real truth here. You can't be alive as a human being without emotions. Emotional regulation is like steering a canoe down a river. When you try to stay in the middle most of the time, but expect some rapids and enjoy the great ones and deal with the less ideal ones. And a river becomes stagnant without movement. That's 100% accurate. The algae builds up when there's no movement of the water. So we need to learn a lot from water. There's a lot to be learned. Well, when infants develop food allergies, no, you see, their systems are very pure and they often are exposed. They're the first ones that will let you know something's toxic. It's, people become so used to the toxicity, they don't notice it anymore. For example, if you go to a hair salon or a nail salon, they don't even smell it anymore. Whereas if you aren't in there all the time, you walk in, you can get knocked over from the actual toxic odor that's coming from the chemicals. Where someone who's been working in that environment for decades, for even, even a short while, they'll say, what smell? I don't smell anything. We get numbed out to the poisons. And this can be true of poisonous emotions as well. If you've ever lived with or been around a toxic person, you get used to it. You can actually start to think abuse is normal. It's not normal, my friends. It's toxic. And I am suggesting that you clean up the toxicity in your life, in all areas of your life. And what you're going to find is the real you lying underneath that has gotten used to something that's not healthy for you. And you may, after you start to clean it up, you start to notice things you didn't notice before that were always harmful to you, but you put up with it for so long you didn't know and you didn't notice it. That could be people, that could be certain foods, that could be a lot of things. So someone's asking a great question here. And again, this is my opinion. I know a lot of professionals in the arena of health don't agree with me. But the question is, what about psychedelic journeying? Plant medicine is another way it's described, medicinal mushrooms, etc. She's asking, what about psychedelic journey that can heal trauma and suppresses emotions? So I am not a fan because, and I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, that it's right or wrong or good or bad. It's obviously helping a lot of people. It is not for me, and I don't ever recommend it to anyone. It's your choice, of course. And I will say that if you do it, find someone who's actually trained, because I have worked with the people who did not have a positive experience. It's not all that it's, what's the word? There's a lot of things being said about this in a positive way that makes it sound like it's just a panacea for every problem. That's not the case for everyone. Some people have a really hard time integrating back into their life and their body and their mental state after they do these things. So don't think it's rosy for everybody. It's not. I'm not a fan only because we have the inner technology to activate. You see, if you have a neuroreceptor for a mushroom to work, that means you have the ability to generate the same drug chemical from within you in a natural way. If you didn't have the receptor for it, if we couldn't generate it naturally, we wouldn't be born with the receptor for it. And so anything like that we just need to learn the practice and the tool to generate our inner technology. And that's what I'm all about and what my work is all about. I was given guidance decades ago that this is about learning to rely on nothing and no one outside of ourselves. Now, that's not to say that you can do that right out of the gate. People come to me all the time and they're taking certain medicines, and I never tell anyone to take or don't take any medicine. You will know. I work with people all the time with the high-speed healing, and I teach the self-care tools that I've been talking about, where we work on changing the mind and changing the emotions. And guess what happens? Every day someone says, wow, I got to lower my dose. I was taken off. I didn't need it anymore. Because the body changes. When you have a healing effect from my work, you won't need to rely on outer substances. I'm not a fan of using them, right? Because most people have a tendency to depend on something or someone outside themselves. And it can become mentally addicting. People develop mental dependency all the time, even when it's not physically addicting. And that can be tougher to kick than a physical addiction. So it may take a little longer to achieve the effect. But wouldn't you rather? Well, I would rather, and I recommend to people the natural way, the God-given way. That's what I think ultimately we're all here to do, is grow spiritually, personally, is that we're here to awaken, activate, and use our God-given abilities that were hardwired into our system to begin with, that we are a body, mind, emotion, energy complex. And we need to recognize this and you tap into the power of all that and not pretend I'm a helpless, weak, need something out there all the time to find my strength. No, we don't. So that's my 2 cents about that. Great question. Anyone has a question, feel free to type it in the chat. I'll take a little Q&A time right now. Let's see. I think I answered your question here about wondering if working on or near electrical currents and frequencies found in homes and buildings will have a negative impact on one's energy field. The answer is yes, it can, which is why if you develop the tools that I teach, if you use the tools that I teach in my pain-free living program, and you have the help in your energy field, and you practice either the high-speed healing or a form of meditation, or things like qigong or yoga, physical exercise, these all, and breath work, these all help to clear your energy field. And it's a daily practice. If you're working around these things, it's not just a one-time fix. And I will notice a difference in my own life and in how I feel, even though I have a lot of tools. This is not a one-time fix. We all need these 21st century tools, and some of them are ancient tools. And that's what I teach people in my program, both the ancient and the new. And so I would highly recommend that for you or anyone who's around a lot of these frequencies. Let's see, if you go to my website, you'll, let me type that in the chat. Hang on. The website is internationalcpi.com, stands for Chronic Pain Institute, internationalcpi.com. You will see at the top where it says, I think it says services or get started, where you can see all the different, you can work with me one-on-one. You can work in my pain-free living program with me live. You can take the pain-free living program all by yourself on your own, at home alone, a home study version. I do recommend coming to the live group because there's a lot of questions most people have. And like I said, there's nothing like the support of a group of people who are committed to using the tools and learning the language and supporting each other and learning how to really commit to your own health and make your health number one in your life. You'll see that on the website. You'll see my a page with all kinds of videos from my YouTube channel. You can binge watch till your heart's delight there. You will also find a free copy of my book, which I highly recommend everyone read. It's a short book. It's not a long book, and it's more like a workbook. So it actually has exercises for you to do that will help you if you're on a limited budget and you're not able to attend one-on-one work with me or the program right now. Use my book, watch the videos, use all the free tools that I offer, and you will start healing. If you are able and willing, I highly recommend you commit to something and stop trying to figure it out on your own. Because if you could have, you would have already figured it out. So just get a leg up. There's a leg up offered to you here. And so many tools that you will use the rest of your life on any pain, pattern, or problem. All right, Poppy is asking for suggestions for living in a negative environment in order to keep herself positive. I'm sure others can relate to this question. So yes, there are a lot. The first thing I would say is you must learn to have boundaries, clear boundaries. You must learn to speak up and set those boundaries and learn to say no and learn to ask for what you need. Now, this is where a lot of people lack. They are afraid to speak up. They don't like conflict. They got programmed very early in childhood that their needs don't matter. They become people pleasers. They don't stand up for themselves, and they end up feeling like everybody else tramples right on their boundaries. Many people who were abused younger in life, they don't even have boundaries. Their boundaries were violated, and they didn't develop the emotional maturity and the boundaries that they need. And so then you find yourself in a negative environment that often resembles what it looked like earlier in your childhood. And it's the same pattern, different house, different bodies, same problems. So this is where I highly recommend you get support from me or someone else. If you don't like me enough, that's okay. Find someone you can trust, because you've got to work on and build the toolbox for standing up for yourself. And you can learn at any age to create the healthy boundaries, learn to say no, quit giving too much, and learn to take your power back. It's all about being in your power. And this is what will allow you to heal and to recognize you don't have to be afraid of life or other people. It's not about the other people, it's about us. You also might discover that some environments you need to leave. In fact, I would say what happens often is that if we don't learn to stand up for ourselves and set boundaries and quit being a people pleaser, if you leave, you'll probably find yourself in a similar situation with different bodies, and the same lesson repeats itself. And you might marry it or work for it or become roommates with it, but it's the same darn lesson. So it's our own work to do. It's not about them and blaming other people. There's one exception, and that is if you are in a physical environment where you're being abused, physically, mentally, emotionally, I highly recommend you leave as fast as you can, and then get the help you need so that you don't repeat the pattern. I don't care what you've done, real or imagined, you do not deserve to be abused for anything. So leave the abuse, get the help until you're strong enough on your own to not recreate that pattern. Let's see. The group training, someone's asking, is it to learn to do it for other people and your family? My biofield healing immersion practitioner training is for that. The pain-free living program is for doing your own personal work. It's not a training to help other people, but I will be very clear about this. You will only be able to help other people. You can only take people so far as you personally have gone. And so every great practitioner has done a hell of a lot of work on themselves. I never stop working on myself. I am the first one to admit I know very little. And I will say to those who say to me all the time, oh, I've worked on myself for years. Great. But if you, how do I say this? You would know what I know and be able to do what I do if your consciousness was ready for that. Now, I can help you get your consciousness ready for that. I can help you access the state of consciousness that it takes to do what I do. And that's what I teach in my training program. It's not a technique. And everyone can do it. But you will, if you have not dealt with your own emotional baggage, and if you are not aware of your own habits of thought that are destructive and disturbing, you'll shut other people down. When they come to you and they bring these things up, if you have an area of your life that is unhealed, you'll either stop them or shut them down, and you'll limit the results that you can get. So everyone should do the pain-free living program if you want to be a great practitioner, and then you do the training. And I will be offering the training in 2024 as soon as possible. I don't think we're going to be able to get it out like I had hoped by the end of this year. I'm still working on that, but I can't promise that. So if you have not, it's application only. So if you're interested in that, even if you're a lay person who, you want to learn to do it for your kids, I think every family should have someone who knows how to do this. You will save many trips to the ER with your kids. Then go to, let me type it in the chat, internationalcpi.com/BHPT. It stands for Biofield Healing Practitioner Training, and it's application only. You must fill out the application in order to be on the list. When I'm ready to offer it and I have the date, I'm going to do a live Zoom Q&A call where I'll explain all about the program. You can read about some of it on the website, but I'm changing a few things, and I will explain all the details in a live call, and I'll take questions, and I'll help coach people to discover if it's a good fit for you on that live call. So sign up if you're interested. And again, you don't have to be a professional. In fact, truthfully, many of the people who are not professionals have an easier time because they have less to unlearn. So again, I welcome all practitioners. I've trained everyone from an 8-year-old to an 85-year-old in all walks of life. Stay-at-home moms, CPAs, hairdressers, doctors, nurses, lawyer, like you name it, they have come and learned the training. So don't worry about you're not a practitioner. That's okay. It's open to everyone. Let's see. Let's see what other questions are in here. Have I helped people with type 1 diabetes? Oh, here's a great story for you. It shocked the hell out of me. So I hired someone years ago to work on my team in the background with the tech, supporting calls like this and all my tech, setting up tech stuff online. And when I hired her, she told me she had chronic pain, but she didn't tell me that she had a list of other things, one of them being diabetes. And she, I think she was afraid to tell me. But what happened is that she started coming and sitting in to support the live calls. And lo and behold, one day she said to me, well, I've been waiting because I was a little afraid it was it was going to go away. She said, but it first started with, she lost, I think it was 40 pounds, then 75 pounds, then 90 pounds. She completely, her doctor said, no, there's no more diabetes, completely gone. She had a lot of pain in her legs and mobility issues from the diabetes, all gone. She started being able to walk without a cane or a walker. She was able to hike again. She ended up like her whole life transformed. And she never worked with me privately. She attended all the calls and the group program. And she was in the background helping people with the tech and helping me with the tech. So yes, the answer is yes. I've helped people with both types of diabetes. I've seen both types heal. Someone else is asking about dementia and Parkinson's. And I've had quite a few people come with both of these conditions. And I've seen a mixture of results. The people who were able to speak to me got greater results. I think because I was able to teach them things that they would practice. most of the tremors and the shaking for anyone who came to me with tremors, shaking, even seizures from epilepsy, they reported complete healing. What I have seen to be challenging were a couple cases where they were in a state that appeared to be like a coma, where they weren't speaking and they weren't able to communicate with me directly. I knew they could hear me. And sometimes they could give answers, but in a way that their caregiver had decipher for me. Or sometimes they would give, they would blink their eyes or they would nod their head. But the cases that were sort of in and out of consciousness all the time were more challenging and took a lot longer. And some of them did not fully heal. We saw improvement, but I think it had a lot to do with them not either being willing or able to practice some of the things I wanted to teach them that I couldn't teach them. So, I don't make any guarantees. It's not that I believe it can't heal. It's that I do think there on some level, it requires your state of consciousness to be open and willing and teachable. And not everyone is willing, not everyone is open, not everyone is fully, their consciousness isn't at a place where they will be able to fully heal. I think it's rare, but it does happen because I worked with people in a coma before who I brought out of the coma who fully healed. So a lot of this has to do with your state of consciousness, and that's out of my control. Not that I have any control anyway. I don't think any of this is really my control. I think this has to do with the soul level aligned with the personality, and a lot of people's personality fights what the soul is asking them to do. And the pain and until the pain and the symptoms are bad enough and the people are willing to surrender and change. And I know in my case, I fought what was for my highest and best good for a long time until I finally was in enough pain that I was willing to change. Nicole is asking, have you ever seen healing with autoimmune disease? And I've seen it a lot. You see, your immune system is directly related to your state of mind and state of emotions and your energy field. It's the missing key. Your immune system is affected by every thought and emotion, and particularly the ones that you feel strongly about, and particularly to the level of fear, and particularly to the low vibrational frequencies. And so you definitely want to work on clearing out all fear and guilt and shame and those low vibrational emotional states if you want a strong immune system. That is key to immune and autoimmune. And so many people have reported, bye-bye, no more, after working with me. So, all right, we're going to be ending in few minutes. So I want to end tonight. Thank you for all the great questions, everyone, and for being so responsive. I really appreciate your participation, and it just shows your level. There are more people in here now that were with us in the beginning, and you've stayed on the call, and this has been a long call. It's hard to have a call that's under 2 hours, and when nobody leaves, somebody's listening. So I'm very grateful, and hope to be continuing with these calls. So make sure you keep coming back and supporting these calls if you want them to continue, and feel free to send your testimonials, your emails to the office, which is contact@internationalcpi.com. And you can contact us over the internet as well at the website internationalcpi.com. There's a place to contact us and send us an email. And so I want to leave tonight with a very powerful experiment. One of the things we know is that our thoughts and our words program water. Program water. And the water will actually hold the intention of your thoughts and your emotions. So you want to be conscious of what you're thinking and speaking while you're eating dinner, while you're drinking your water, while you're bathing, while you're around the water that you put in your body. And so tonight, with all the disruption that's going on the planet, I'd like everyone to please pick up a glass of water and hold it in your hands and be able to look into it. And I'm going to ask you to first close your eyes and imagine you're looking into the water, even with your eyes closed. And I'd like you to take a deep breath and just let go of everything on your exhale that we've talked about. Empty yourself and just let a big sigh out of your mouth and just empty yourself of all the information and everything you think you know, and just empty yourself like a clean, pure glass of water. Keep yourself open and just listen to the sound of my voice. And I'd like you to first put your attention while you're holding the water on your heart area. And I'd like you to focus on your heart and think about something or someone that you love, where you feel safe and feel good about yourself, about life. It could have been from decades ago. It could have happened for 1 second. It could be something that happened earlier today or that you experience all the time. And if you can't get in touch with something or someone you love or where you feel safe, make it up. Imagine what it would feel like. Your imagination is just as powerful as your memory. So imagine something or someone you love and a place where you feel safe. Imagine if you have a connection, imagine that connection with your higher power, a God of your understanding that helps you feel safe and connected and loved. It may be a parent, it may be a friend. And take a moment and feel that feeling. Feel that feeling as you're holding the water. And just breathe in and out and feel that feeling of love and safety and connection. And now I want you to imagine if that feeling of love and connection and safety had a color, what color would it be? There's no right or wrong. There's the first thought that comes into your mind, the first color. Just make it up. You can't do this wrong. And now as you feel the feeling of love and connection and safety, and imagine the color. You might see it, you might not. Just imagine the color of it. I'd like you to imagine it pouring out of your heart and pouring into the glass of water, filling the water with the color and the feeling of love and connection and safety. Pour it in and say the words out loud: love, safety, connection. I pour love, safety, and connection into the water straight from my heart. I pour love, safety, and connection into the water straight from my heart. Imagine that now. Say that now. Speak it now. Intend it now. Now let's take it one step further. Take a sip of the water. And say out loud, I fill my entire body, mind, and spirit with the love, the safety, and the connection. I fill myself up, every cell, every fiber of my being, both physical and non-physical, on all dimensions, past, present, future, parallel, on all levels, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic. I fill myself with love, safety, and connection to everything good. Only goodness resides in me. Take another sip. And now take your attention back to your heart and imagine a doorway in the center of your heart and open that door wide open. And imagine this vibrational frequency of love, connection, safety, the feeling, the color, the intention of this. Imagine it pouring out now to all beings everywhere, all over the planet. Intentionally send it out from your heart to every being everywhere, all over the planet, all over the universe, all over the cosmos. Send it out as far and wide as you can possibly imagine into all universes, both known and unknown, past, present, future, parallel. Send it out. My intention, say it out loud, my intention is that all beings everywhere experience love, safety, and connection right here, right now. There is only now. There's only now. And now just take a minute of quiet time and feel into this. You might begin to sense the vibrations around you. You might hear them or feel your body responding. You might hear all the sounds around you. You might feel your body tingling, vibrating. You are a being, a vibrational being. You are made of love. You are filled with love. You are surrounded by love. You always were. You always will be. And you are right now. Remember that. Know that. Practice that. Feel it. Speak it. Think about it. Strengthen it. Strengthen your knowing of who you really are. And take that with you today. And then slowly, slowly blink your eyes open. Let the light come back in. Take a deep breath. And let it all go. And I want to thank you again for being here. I'm going to ask everyone to unmute now so that we can say goodbye to each other. Good night, good day, wherever you are in the world. Thank you again, everyone, and have a beautiful rest of
Thank
your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
you. Good
Bye.
night.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Nighty, nighty, night.
Night.